This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us Dave Stryker, jazz guitarist, composer, everything, jazz everything. How 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 much are you composing now versus are you composing more than you have ever been before?
Well, ever since I started playing, I always enjoyed composing, even from the very beginning, writing music that always seemed to be a part of what I like to do, combined with my playing. And I had had the good opportunity to record a lot of records over the years, and that's always a good opportunity and a impetus to try to write some new music. See who I'm going to be playing with, what kind of project I want to do, and try to write some music for the people I'm playing with, and come up with something cool that a lot of times it's make a nice vehicle to improvise, because that's really what we're trying to get to is that magic that can happen when we start improvising together and creating together.
Yes, I see jazz musicians improvising and having a lot of fun improvising. However, when you write new music, how does playing new music with your band compare with improvising covers?
Well, I like doing both things. So I like to sometimes to find a song, a cover, as you might call it, or whatever, and put my own spin on it. And
Mhm.
I've done that in a lot of different ways. Most, in the last several years, I was doing what I call my 8-track project, which was
Mhm.
where I would take pop tunes that I grew up with in the 70s and 60s and 70s, things like Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield and Stevie Wonder, those great artists, and I would try to put my own spin on some of their music, and uh, with my group, with Jared Gold on organ and McClenty Hunter on drums, and then we
Mhm.
added Stefan Harris on vibraphone, and that seemed to be very popular because people, if they've heard a song, they can relate to that because they know the melody, and that's a way of bringing the audience in, and that's a good connection to make. And it's nothing, new to that. From the very beginning, when I was playing in Omaha, Nebraska, uh, I remember playing, get a local sax player kind of taking me under his wing and showing me standards and things, but he also showed me, Never Can Say Goodbye or Call Me, some of the songs that were popular back then. And that, doing that is the same reason, just a kind of a pop tune of the day, but jazzing it up. And then when I got with Jack McDuff, he would do that a little bit as well. And also Stanley Turrentine did that quite a bit when I was with him for about 10 years. And in fact, when I first got in the band, he had a record out called Wonderland that he did the music of Stevie Wonder. So, it's always been something that jazz musicians have done. But when I did the 8-track project, I focused solely on that, and kind of yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Did you listen to a lot of A-tracks when you were young, more
I
than
actually had a eight
cassettes?
track player in my
Mhm.
van in high school.
Oh.
So I was in that during that time in that I guess that would have been in the 70s. And it wasn't the greatest uh, form of they would these 8-track tapes. It was the first time you could play a tape in your car. It was before cassettes, and so they were quite popular when they came out. And but they were quirky. Let's put it that way. In other words, if you hit a bump in your car as you're driving down the road, it might switch to the next track, and it would do crazy things like that. And but it was from a nostalgia uh, standpoint, it does bring back certain memories and certain music for a certain generation of people.
Well, you must have really enjoyed it. In order to name your name three albums, A track, one, two,
Yeah,
three.
like I said, it was a project that people seem to really relate to. So I didn't do three in a row, but
Mhm.
I did the first one, then I did another record or two, then hey, let's do another one, and then I remember driving with Stefan Harris somewhere on the road one time and saying, you know what, I was thinking I'd like to do another, three, and he goes, yes, we got it, the trilogy, we must complete the trilogy.
Mhm.
So we did 8 track three, and that's the one where I'm dressed on the cover with in 70s garb with platform high heel, platform shoes on, which if you remember the 70s, you remember those.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of fun. And then after that, that one went to number one for like 6 weeks. It was really, people loved it. So I said, hey, we should do an 8 track Christmas record. So that's actually technically the fourth 8 track was uh, with the same band, and we recorded some Christmas music. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Did you have any idea? Did you have any aspiration to becoming a musician when you were enjoying that music when you were young?
Yes, I really had an early start playing music. Uh, I started taking guitar lessons when I was 10 years old, and by the time I was 12 years old in junior high school, I started a band with a couple of the older guys. I was in seventh grade and they were in ninth grade, so I would have been about 12 and they would have been 14 or 15.
Wow.
And yeah, we started actually playing gigs, and I never stopped. I kept playing gigs all through junior high, high school, and then just kept going from there. And
Wow.
at the time I was hearing some of that music, I was already playing in bands and stuff. Yeah.
And the guitar was your instrument. Do you know do you know any other instrument?
I'm mainly a guitar player, although I
Mhm.
play bass as well and a little drums.
Mhm. So when you're on the guitar, do you have you found a special space with the guitar, like a special way to play it in a way that nobody else plays?
Well, I would hope so. I've been playing quite a long time now.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's the goal of any musician, is to have their own identifiable sound. But that would be something that the listener or the fans or whatever would have to, decide if to answer that question. But I think I have, I hope I have anyway, that people tell me that they can recognize me when they hear me on the radio and stuff.
Mhm.
Thanks to people like yourself for playing the music.
Thank you. So the Van Gelder sessions, the Van Gelder studio was it that hard to record in it? You're Dave Stryker. You mean you weren't ever able to record in it before?
Well, I just the opportunity never came up.
Oh.
I had I was recording for a label called Steeplechase for many years.
Mhm.
That's a Danish label. That was one of my first, my first records started coming out in about 1990. Although my very first record I recorded in 1988 that came out on a Japanese label. But
Mhm.
they would always have a certain studio they were using,
Mhm.
and it didn't happen to be Van Gelder's. And then it was always that kind of situation where somebody else had picked the studio, and then when I started doing my own records for my own label, there's a studio called Trading Eights in Paramus, New Jersey, that the engineer Chris Sulit is really great, and I'm really comfortable working with him. So I've done all my projects there mostly, but I always had this I always thought it would be really cool to go to the famous Rudy Van Gelder studio,
Mhm.
and also Rudy had passed. I don't know how long ago, maybe 20 years ago, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was a time where they weren't really recording there that much, but Rudy's assistant engineer, the only person that really knew the kind of some of the secrets and the microphones and the gear that some of which Rudy had invented. There was really Maureen Sickler was her name, and she was really when Rudy passed, his wife had already left and had passed, and so he willed it to Maureen, his whole
Mm,
studio and his home. And her husband is Don Sickler, a trumpet player and a music publisher. And so that started. They started recording again, and I believe they've gotten landmark status for the studio,
mm,
and which is great because we wanted to stay there and as long as possible because it's an amazing place to walk into. I had actually gone to visit a few years ago. My friend Steve Johns and I went up there. We were invited to come check it out, and I talked to Maureen and Don, and they asked me to come make a record there. And so, previous to this, I had recorded a big project called "Stryker with Strings Goes to the Movies," and we did that
mm,
in Bloomington, Indiana, where at that time I was teaching at Indiana University,
mm,
and we did it with a 30-piece orchestra, studio orchestra.
mm,
So I'd gone from a huge project like that, and it seemed like let me go back and this working group of mine with Jared Gold and McClenny Hunter, we've been together going on 20 years now. So I said this would be a nice time to do an organ trio record. Why don't we go and do this one at Rudy's? And uh, that organ that is at Rudy's is the famous organ that was Jimmy Smith recorded all those Blue Note records, and Jack McDuff, who I worked with for many years, and Larry Young. It's a classic organ, so it was really cool to. I mean, you have you walk in those doors and you realize like all the Blue Notes and Prestige records,
mm,
all the CTI records, and Coltrane, A Love Supreme. So many amazing records were recorded there.
mm.
Uh, it's kind of overwhelming, but I think that we were able to, we're confident enough in our group that we just kind of used that as inspiration, and I think
Mm,
we got inspired by the setting.
mm. What's so special about that organ? Was it specially made? Was it altered? Why is that?
No, it happens to be the organ. Hammond organs are some are I don't know that much about them, but some are sound better than others.
Mm,
That just happens to be the one that they used on all those sessions, and it really sounds nice. And that room is a high ceiling. It's all wood and brick. There's no carpeting really on the floors or anything. It's an acoustic room with high ceilings, and it's I believe it was an acolyte of Frank Lloyd Wright who
oh.
designed it.
Hmm. So, is there any of the soundproofing and all that? It's just the wood and the high ceilings and there's no
Yeah,
echo
yeah.
and
It's a nice sounding room. And
wow.
you see when you go in there and you see the walls, you realize a lot of your records that you remember, you recognize. Oh, that's that brick wall behind Stanley's Turrentine and the Three
Mhm.
Sounds, or that kind of thing. Or
Well,
there's the glass window that was behind, these shots that you saw. So it was it's a warm sounding room.
wow. Usually, I thought that the warm sounding rooms would have the soundproofing and the like you know
Baffling and
that
stuff.
yes.
No, actually, in the old days, everybody was in the same room. Now, for the last many years, they have a drum booth, which is good for isolation and mixing to get the best sound. I know that started probably at in the CTI years, and maybe before that. Um, and I know a lot of the drummers like the sound in that booth. So myself and for this date, myself, Jared, the organist, and I were out in the big room, and then right next to us, you could see through the glass in the booth, McClenny and the drums. But yeah, it's the sound of the room that's makes it special. It's a big sound. You know, you just can't replicate that in a small studio with a lot of
Mhm.
padding and stuff.
Right. So I guess that room is conducive to several people playing together, right?
Yes. Yeah,
That's it.
it sounds great for horn players too. You know, they
Hmm.
love being in there because their sound comes. You know, it's a big fills up that room. It's natural reverb.
Hmm. Yeah, natural reverb. Yeah, we were Bill and I were recording some of our new segments, and then we were trying to get the unnatural reverb. I think we had like two microphones going at the same time, the built-in one and the mic. So we had to find out a way to like get rid of one of them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes you can have some little problems with those kind of things, but yeah, this is the sound of that room is is a nice warm sound.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, it must be very special in order to for you to actually have it in your title as well of the
Yeah, I
album.
well it made sense for me to call it Blue Fire, the
Mhm.
Van Gelder session because I'd been waiting a long time to record there, and so I wanted to let people know that's what was special about this recording.
Why Blue Fire? What's what is the blue from?
Well, it's just, it's hard to name your songs sometimes because they're instrumental songs. They don't have lyrics. But that particular song, it took me a while to figure out a title for that one. It's a very fast line, as we say, melodic line, and it's kind of on fire, and there's some blues in there, so Blue Fire.
Mhm. So when you write songs, do you uh do the melodies just come to you, or are you inspired by other songs, or is it a mixture?
A mixture. I think sometimes you'll come upon a melody you like, and now that we have these phones in our pockets, it actually isn't such a great thing for some reasons, as we know. Uh, but to have a recorder in your pocket is good as a musician sometimes because if you come up with a melody, a lot of times I'll just hit record on my phone and I can play it in, and then I'll have a bunch of ideas on there, and then when it comes time to record, and I know I have to write some music, I'll start listening to what some of these ideas, and that is a good way for me to start writing some music.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. So you don't forget it because yeah, you record it and then
Yeah,
yes.
you would forget it. I would further, if I don't if I don't record it or remember it, uh, yeah, it goes away next time.
Mhm.
But also, you mentioned, yes, sometimes you can be inspired by many things. Not, listening to other music can be inspiring to you, or maybe even seeing like some beautiful artwork or hearing some poetry, or watching an amazing movie. Just anything in life, hiking and seeing some beautiful scenery. Anything can be an inspiration, for composing a tune. So there's a lot of different things there.
So for your last album, it was based on all those tunes were based on a lot of your favorite movies.
Yes, yeah, that was a really exciting project to do. Go to Striker with Strings goes to the movies. Brent Walrab is a great arranger, and he also is the teaches at Indiana University. And I was out there for about 11 years, commuting out there from New Jersey, where I live.
Oh.
And we had done a project that's actually you can see it on PBS now. It was a tribute to Wes Montgomery. It's called Wes. It was I think Wes at 100 or something like that.
Mhm.
And it was because of Wes's 100th birthday. I was contacted. They said PBS wanted to do a special since Wes is from Indianapolis. And so Brent arranged Wes's music for big band, and as well as a string section, a string orchestra, and uh, and we actually did some of the arrangements of from Wes, um, from the records. Um, I'm donging. I'm blanking a little bit on the arranger. I'm thinking of
It's okay.
that arranged the West music. I'm going to come up with an Oliver Nelson. Got it.
Okay.
Oliver Nelson. Yeah. So we had a couple of his arrangements as well, and I think Brent might have added strings to some of those. And so we recorded it at the PBS studio there at Indiana University, and it was quite a moment for me, having to, I've been playing a long time, and Wes is one of my heroes, of course,
Oh,
and uh, but I've been playing long enough that I know there's only one Wes Montgomery. So I just, even though I was playing his music, I tried to just play the way I play. I think it came off pretty well. It's out there on PBS now, and some people have said they thought it was pretty good.
mhm.
Anyway, that's after that was over. I said to Brent Walrab, I said, we should go in the studio and make a record, with this idea of a big, horns and and I didn't really want to. We'd kind of done the West thing, so I said, why don't we think about doing movie themes? And
Mhm.
it turns out that he told me the two things he loves the most in life are music and movies. And I'm kind of the same way.
Mhm.
And so we just started throwing back ideas, and we came up with about 10 cool movie themes. And that was a lot of fun, that project.
Maybe one of these days, you read a movie theme.
It'd be nice. My son is both my sons are very creative and into the movies, and my older son Matt is a filmmaker, so you never know.
Right. Um, so, what about your other heroes? Do you like the Beatles a lot?
Well, like most people of my generation, kind of grew up with the Beatles. I had an older
Mhm.
sister, and so she's about 5 years older than me. So I remember being a kid, like 9, 10 years old, and listening to the Beatles 45s she had on her. You would go buy the 45s when the records came out, and then the albums. And the Beatles were huge, in the 60s, and so I was hearing that early on. That's some of the first music I heard. So that'll always be close to my heart. The Beatles are, I love the Beatles. And um, as a matter of fact, on the new record, we do a Beatles song called "The Fool on the Hill," and we put our own spin on it. That was inspired also by uh, Sérgio Mendes, who had passed.
Oh,
And I remember hearing it that he had passed on the radio on the way to a gig one night. And so when I got to the gig, said, we should play this song called "The Fool on the Hill," and I showed it to Jared, and then we kind of developed an arrangement, and I recorded that. But yeah, Beatles were early on, one of my favorites.
why did you choose the Fool on the Hill? Because that's like unrec someone
I
was
rem
like an unrecognizable talent or something like that. The Fool
No, it was Sergio Mendes had a hit with that song.
Oh,
So yeah, so that was
okay.
the initial. I wanted to do something as a tribute to Sergio
Oh my God.
Mendes, who was
Hang
a
on,
great Brazilian pianist.
I'm having trouble with my speaker. Let me see what's going on. Hang on.
How long do you want to do this
One
for,
second.
Trudy?
Just a second. Let's see. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, somehow I just had to reinsert my speaker. Okay.
Um, how long would you like this interview to be? I'm not sure. I wasn't forgot to ask you how long this will be.
Uh, well, how long has it been now? About 20 minutes?
Or maybe a half hour, yeah.
Oh,
25
I,
minutes, I'm not sure.
yeah. Do you have to go? Are
No,
you?
I could do a few. Let's do maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. Would that be okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
have to. I have to go somewhere. But I
Oh,
could.
okay, okay. Well, let's talk about the about this record. So which other songs were composed by you, and then what led you to compose those songs?
On the new record.
Yes, the
Okay.
Blue Fire. Yeah, let's talk
So
about what
the
you
first
your
the first
compositions.
yeah, the first song is called Van Gelder's Place, and that's just a
Hmm.
blues. And I knew that I wanted because of the organ trio and the history of the organ trio, and
Hmm.
it definitely knew I wanted to have a blues, for the record. And so I called it Van Gelder's Place for obvious reasons. And um, it's also a shuffle, which my drummer McClenny Hunter has one of the swingingest shuffles I think around. So I always like to do one. It's a real shake your head kind of tune while you're listening to it.
Hmm.
And then we talked about Blue Fire. That's you always want to. I always want to have like what we call a burner, something fast, and so that was that one, Blue Fire, and it was just an idea I had this for this melody, and same thing. Just brought it in to to a gig one time, and Jared came up with the bass line, and we started playing it, and came up with the arrangement of it. There's a song on there called "Waiting for Ruby," and my I have my first granddaughter. Her name is Ruby
Oh.
Willow Stryker,
Hmm.
and from my son Matt and Keandra, his wife. And so she was pregnant, and the baby we recorded in July, and the baby was born October 2nd. So waiting for Ruby, that's uh, self-explanatory.
Hmm.
But it was another one that just this. I had this very pretty melody in my you know idea, so
Hmm.
it seemed appropriate. It's a waltz, and actually, my son made a really amazing video on YouTube. If you look up Dave Stryker Waltz for Ruby, you can
Okay.
find it,
Okay.
and where he kind of documents the whole time that he was waiting. Him and his wife were waiting for Ruby, and he
Hmm.
interspersed it with us in the studio recording it. In fact, my son Matt, who we're talking about, I flew him up to Van Gelder's to uh, film the whole session. So a lot of the music on the record you can find on YouTube, us playing it live in the studio.
I think I saw a
Um,
couple of them. Yes, I didn't
yeah,
know the
and
context of it. Thanks for letting me know.
yeah, and so then let me see, what else did I write on this record? Uh, I think there might be one other one, or maybe that's it. I'll look here.
Do you ever get inspired by?
Oh, I have. There's one more. There's one more called "Every Dark Street,"
Oh,
and that's a song that I wrote several years ago that I recorded in my group with Steve Slagle, the saxophonist, and then hadn't played it in a while, and I thought it would be good for the trio, and so we included that.
were
And
you
that's
inspired?
actually an excuse me.
Were you inspired by some dark street that you happen to be on?
That's a funny question. You should ask that. Every dark street is actually an anagram of my name.
Oh,
Yeah,
very nice. Wow. Okay.
that's the inside story there.
So who played around with your name? Your kids or you?
No, I came up with that. I think
Oh,
years ago.
nice.
Yeah,
Is that how you write
but it
music?
has that. It does have that kind of feel to it. It's kind of a moody, bluesy kind of tune.
Yes. Well, is that how some a little bit of how you write music? You do anagrams of notes?
No, no,
Okay.
I just sometimes we do that with our names. You take the letters of your name and see if you can spell something else with it. So
It's fun.
I came up with that.
Hmm.
Uh,
And what about the nature sounds? Do those ever inspire you to write some music?
mm, I don't know, not directly, I don't think, but you never know what inspires you. Birds do come up with some cool sounds, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah.
Bill and I have been listening to the white-throated sparrow. At first, we didn't know who he was. We spent like about an hour or two trying to find who that bird is.
Oh,
Yeah, when you get a chance, listen to his song. It's really beautiful.
okay. Sounds good.
Well, Dave Stryker, whose album is Blue Fire, that our listeners should try and enjoy. And if our listeners want to learn more about you, Dave Stryker, where should they go?
They could check out my website, davestryker.com, and my last name's spelled with a Y, Stryker.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dave Stryker.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate you playing the music and spreading positivity out there by playing good music.
Yes. Well, it is good music and it's wonderful music. Thank you so much, Dave Stryker.
Thank you for having me.